Hi guys, this is Nate and welcome to Elevate with Nate, the channel where we discuss learning, self-improvement and motivation. And in case you are new to this channel, just as an overview, essentially what I discuss in these videos is something new that I've learned myself in the last 24 hours, or if not potentially something which I already knew about, but I was inspired to discuss it because of what I've perhaps come across in the last 24 hours. It's all about self-improving every single day. So in today's episode, we're going to be discussing weight loss and weight gain. So in case you're wondering, what experience I have with this, I personally, since the age of 15 till about, I would say, age 24, was really into my weightlifting and my gym routines, let's say. I would go to the gym 5-6 times a week. It was what I was most into. And even though I found it hard to put on weight in some regards, I was, still am, 6'3", 1m90, but I weighed around 86 kilos, that's around 190 pounds. So, so I was pretty low body fat, kind of 8 to 10%, but that was what I really enjoyed doing. So, I learned a lot about lifting in those years. And ever since, from 24 till 30, that's my age now, I'm still lifting now, but perhaps more 3 or 4 times a week, but with less intensity as I used to, because I've got more things going on now, but I still believe that lifting is important. So why am I discussing today weight loss and weight gain? Well, actually, it was simply because my younger brother at dinner time was showing me this video on YouTube, which has gained a lot of views and follows, which I'll show you right now. And it's this one here by Jubilee, which I know a lot of people watch recently. It's got 4.6 million views, this video. And it says, "Is being fat a choice? Fit men versus fat men." So what I'll do is I'll quickly show you just the introduction to this video. Just so you can see what it's about.
Do you think just being in a fat body and being in the public space encourages obesity?
Yes.
Shame is what led me to an eating disorder.
Whose fault is that,
What
though?
we're looking for is
Whose fault is that?
stability.
That's your fault.
It's
See, the problem is that you're a
amalgamation.
professional victim.
Would you agree, like, looking at his physique, like, he's at a perfectly, I would say, maybe healthy.
No,
Maybe.
he's definitely overweight, definitely obese.
My name is John. I host the Radical Empathy podcast. I used to direct.
Anyway, so this actual video, I haven't watched the entire video. I watched the first 20 minutes or so. And I can't say I fully agree with some of the opinions by the members on the fit side of the argument, but it was still an interesting thing to start to watch. So if that's your kind of video and you haven't watched that before, then give it a watch. But that made me want to talk about kind of the idea of weight loss and weight gain, because what I could see was in this video, a lot of the people didn't actually really understand what on earth is going on when it comes to this. And hopefully I know a bit more. Maybe not, but let's see. So, to start off, I think the main thing which has to be discussed when it comes to weight loss and weight gain is simply calories out versus calories in. That's one thing. And also something called the kind of your base metabolic rate. Okay? So if I show you now this page here, just to show you exactly what the basal, not base, the BMR, refers to the minimum number of calories your body needs to function while you're resting. And this is the important thing too, which we'll touch upon soon. This will vary from person to person, but it usually takes up to 60 to 70% of the energy your body uses. So, as it says there, what this is referring to is, if let's say right now you did nothing, okay? You did nothing, you're just there existing. How much calories does your body burn? So when I say you doing nothing and burning calories, that will be because, for example, that comes down to breathing, digesting food, circulating blood, these kind of activities which keep you alive. Okay. So the important thing there was it mentioned about how it differs from person to person. And the next thing to kind of touch upon, which you may have heard before but you may not have, is different type of body types. And the ones you often hear are the endomorph, ectomorph, and the mesomorph. And I can show you here, just on Google Images, the idea of this. So generally, the ectomorph is the, say, skinny person who finds it hard to put on weight. The endomorph is the opposite, finds it hard to lose weight. And the mesomorph is the generally muscular build who puts on muscle with ease. So here's an example to show you how it might work. Imagine right now, every single of these three individuals eats in one day 2,000 calories, okay? Because people might say, oh, for a individual, that's what you need to eat. And let's just assume right now that they both are doing nothing. Just be looking at this line there. It might be that for the mesomorph, the middle one, that's the perfect. If they do nothing, they burn 2,000 calories in one day. So if they've eaten 2,000 calories, then what you've eaten equals what you've burned. So therefore the net calories is 0, okay? That's what people talk about, calories in versus calories out. If what you put in is equal to what you kind of put out, you don't lose or gain weight. Whereas it could be that the person who's generally overweight, sadly or not sadly, they eat 200 calories, but let's say now their basal metabolic rate, which they burn doing nothing, might be 1,500. So in that scenario there, they've done nothing, and instead they've taken in 200, but only burned 1,500. So that 500 calories is just kind of put on. And that's why you often hear people say, but I eat the same as you and I'm gaining weight. Well, that's probably because the first person, their natural metabolism, say their rate, is just much higher, so they can get away with doing much less. And on the flip side of that, imagine the ectomorph, the skinnier person. They might do nothing, they've eaten 2,000, but their body wants to burn 2,500, so they're just losing more and more weight. So that's an example there where you're seeing if three types of people ate the same amount of food, you get different outcomes. So you then might look into, okay, so how can we deal with this? Or more importantly, if you want to lose more weight, you're going to want to increase your BMR. You want to have a situation where your body burns more calories quickly so you can stay slimmer. One of the things which you can do is actually having more muscle, okay? The more muscle you have, essentially the more calories your body burns. So that's why often they say, if you want to lose weight, don't just go on a diet, actually go to the gym and do some weightlifting. The more muscle you have on you, the more calories you naturally burn. So if I go back to this website, it's quite nice because it does say here, where is it? Yeah, what other factors affect your metabolism or your BMR? Muscle mass, of course, age. As you get older, metabolism slows down. Hence why normally teenagers are quite slim. As you get older, you find it harder to burn calories. Your sex, your genes play a part in it too. How much you exercise, smoking. So this comes down to the next important bit, which is a lot of people, at least that I've met personally, will go, okay, I want to lose weight and I want it now. I want to have it right now. So they suddenly go on some massive diet. They cut down by half, or even more than that sometimes. They go, right, that's it, I'll eat nothing and happy days. it's actually quite counterintuitive, right? Because you might think, well, great, that might work, okay? And look, and to a certain extent, yes. Look, if right now you ate nothing forever, well, of course, you're just going to die and you're going to lose lots of weight, okay? It's going to happen. But hear me out. If you start to diet too hard, what actually happens is your body's BMR just starts to slow down, okay? And that is shown here. So on this website, as you can see, back to what your BMR is, it says rapid weight loss and aggressive calorie restriction decreases your BMR. So it means that the less you eat, your body goes, right, okay, I need less food now. Which you do not want, okay? You want to have a high BMR. So that's why you get people, often you see, say, people who weigh more, who go, I don't get it, I'm eating nothing, and I'm not losing weight. That could be one of the reasons why. So that's one reason why the extreme diet doesn't work. It'll work initially. If you initially start to reduce your calories a wincy bit, of course, it will start to kind of lose some weight, but you mustn't go extreme. And especially also think about it, naturally there, as it says, when you start losing weight, your body needs less. So you're going to have to, every single time, keep eating less and less and less. And at some point, that's just not going to be feasible, okay? Probably physically, but also, hey, you probably enjoy your food. Do you want to eat just a plate of salad for your entire day? Probably not. Which leads to, therefore, the combination. It's not just about the dieting or eating less food, it's about working out. So if we go back to that same example about the 2,000 calories, imagine the person there who I said, the endomorph, the person who found it harder to lose weight, their body is only burning 1,500 in that day. So currently 500 over. But if now they make sure to do some exercise and burn 500 calories, well, right there, they've made the difference 0. And that's how, in that situation, they haven't gained weight. Or even, let's say, in the gym, you burn 600 calories. Now, overall, you're 100 calories in a deficit, so you are losing weight. So it's a combination of both, of you, of course, trying to make sure you are eating just that 2,000 calories and not 3,000, but also you're working out. And on the flip side, by the way, if you're someone who's the ectomorph and wants to gain the weight, then of course what you have to do is probably eat some more, but also perhaps when you're in the gym, try and do stuff which doesn't burn as many calories. So for example, what you often see is with people who want to lose weight, they do more cardio, that burns more calories. And actually, just so you're aware, I'm not sure if the science backs this up, but I definitely see a lot of people nowadays, when they want to lose calories, they basically don't go on massive long runs. We'll say intense runs. They actually go for the incline walk where, of course, you're out of breath, you're increasing your heart rate, but you're not going anaerobic, okay? You're not going flat out. You're just going at a nice pace for, let's say, half an hour or an hour. And that will apparently burn more calories. So if you're someone who wants to burn fat, then do that. But if you're someone who wants to not lose weight, then of course, stay away from that. And one step further, if you're doing weights, for example, well, have a think about it. If you're looking at the strong men out there, or the weight, the Olympic strong men or whatever it's called, they themselves often are more larger, perhaps even overweight. They take long rest times, okay? They try and probably not to increase their heart rate too much. Whereas if you want to lift weights and at the same time burn calories, just reduce your time in between your sets, in between your exercises. So I personally recently are doing something similar, and I will take 45 seconds to 1 minute in between each set, as opposed to when I was sort of slimmer, I would take 2 or 3 minutes. So let's lastly discuss your diet and what you're eating. And you often find on YouTube and other social media, people will tell you, you can eat whatever you want as long as it is below your calorie intake goal for that day. And actually, That is correct, okay? If you think about what we discussed today, as long as what you're eating is below your MBR for your body, and let's say any additional calories you've burnt in the day, then that's fine. But here's the caveat, here's the reality. It depends also, of course, each food itself has a different kind of calorie density number to it, okay? And to make the most, and say to lose the most weight, you want to be eating food which has a low calorie density, okay? High calorie density food are ones which have a high amount of sugar and fat, but a low amount of fiber and water. So someone says, an average person, what does that mean? Well, think about this. A high calorie food, so it's a dense food, means that the kind of food where you eat it and after eating it, you still feel, not full at all, still pretty hungry. But you look at the paper and go, what? That's 500 calories? That kind of scenario, okay? That's a high calorie dense food. It does not fill you up with a lot of calories. But of course, for losing weight, you want the opposite. You want low calorie dense food. So that's food which will be, say, high in water, high in fiber. So therefore you have a little bit, be full up, and then go, oh, and I'm now full and I haven't eaten many calories. An example might be, for example, porridge. Porridge, try and have a massive bowl of porridge. It's pretty hard to do, and yet it's actually very low in calories. Whereas on the flip side, I don't know, let's say junk food, let's say, that would be very, very high calorie dense food. So of course, if you determined in your day, let's say you can have 2,000 calories of food, by all means, you can, as everyone says, go for that, high calorie dense food, eat junk food. Yeah, sure, you can lose weight having junk food, but this is the reality. If your goal was 2,000, let's say you eat 1,800. Yeah, sure, you're losing weight, but you try and eat 1,800 calories of junk food only in one day, that probably won't be very much food, because have a quick burger and chips, oh, that already is 1,200 calories, for example. So what's left over? 1 or 2 little croissants and donuts for your whole day? Whereas instead, if you had the better food for you, the good food for you, you can eat a lot more and still hit your number. And of course, if you're hearing this and you're the person who wants to gain weight, then of course, don't go and just have the porridge, and do the opposite, okay? But here's an important thing, especially if you're hearing this and you want to, say, gain muscle. It's not just losing weight, it's losing weight and gaining muscle, or gaining muscle and gaining weight. What's really important here is the protein, okay? It is the protein content which you're eating per day, which will be building the muscle, especially when it's being destroyed after a big session. So, if you're eating just the junk food, what will happen is you will hit your limit of calories for that day, and most likely you wouldn't have hit your protein goal. So you're not going to make the muscle. And for bodybuilders, let's say, they try and aim for 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight you are. So let's say I'm right now 210 pounds. That would be 210 grams of protein per day. Now, that's quite a lot. For the average person, you probably don't need to have that extreme ratio. Okay? You might be able to have, if you weigh 200 pounds, probably 120 is fine. But just be aware, 120 is still quite a lot of grams of protein per day. And if you're not consciously trying to hit that, and you're just eating random stuff, eating random junk food, you're not going to hit that. So that's why, if you make the priority for your diet every single day, if you focus around the protein, make sure you hit that protein. And trust me, to hit your protein content, it will still be below your calories for that day. And at that point, with whatever's left over, then eat what you want. And what you'll find is, of course, if you're trying to lose weight and you want to get slimmer, the chances are there probably won't be many calories left to eat junk food. And that's why people say, well, look, in reality, if you want to lose weight and still gain some muscle or be in good shape, you can't eat junk food. It's not the junk food, it's just a whole situation of keeping the calories low and the protein. But if you find out you have an extra 200 calories left over in that day, then have a bit of cake. That's completely fine. As long as you've hit your protein and you're below the calorie for that day. And sure, the natural question to ask would be, well, Nate, what is that number of calories I have to have per day? That's a harder question. Of course, you can go online and try and find some calculators which will tell you, but they ultimately don't always know, what your BMR is and how fast your metabolism is and how much you need. So generally what I would say is, just pick a number, okay? Let's say the online tells you, for you it's 2,000. Then you go 2,000 and you stick with that for a week or two. And if you find out after a week or two you have lost nothing, even gained weight, well then that's your benchmark. You now know, no, okay, that's too high. Let's go for 1,900. That's the best way you can do it, by yourself, bit by bit. But do make sure it is, say, a week or two's gap. Don't say, oh, I've done this for one day, I didn't gain enough, so that's it. I'm going to up it or lower it. That's nonsense, okay? You need a bit more time. So that's what I'll do. So I'd also like to discuss very briefly a bit about effort in the gym. I'll go into more detail in gym stuff in a different episode, but especially on the effort, really key for me, on how well you're going to ultimately do. So I have an analogy I like to use. So just for now, visualize this. Let's say we have, say, two columns, okay? For now they're empty. There's two main things which are going to affect how much muscle you can build, or how much progress you're going to make. This might also be, for example, running, but let's stick more to the lifting side of things. You obviously need to work hard in the gym. The person who goes flat out and is passing out and absolutely going for it, they have more potential to make muscle than the person who simply gives up on the last few reps. So that's where, with my two columns of discussing, I say, imagine, say, there's a percent sign as the y-axis. Okay, you have 10%, 20%, 30%, and that is how hard you went. So if, for example, you went flat out, you couldn't have gone any harder, your little bar has a max height of 100%. Wow, you got the 100% bar. Whereas the person who went half as hard as you, their little bar is only half as tall, 50%. They did not go hard, not the right amount of effort. But here's the part two for this. How does your muscle grow? Well, it needs the rest, it needs the protein, and more. So imagine now this scenario. The person who went really hard in the gym, who has that massive potential, 100% potential, then has a rubbish diet and only eats, let's say, half the amount of protein they should have, just for numbers' sake here. Then the protein, the rest, is what starts to fill up that bar, that potential of how much muscle they make. But if they only ate half the amount they're meant to have, at the end, they've only made, let's say, half the amount of muscle they could have. They've now got half a bar of actual muscle. Whereas if the person who worked out less hard in the gym, then had the perfect diet and had perfect protein, they're going to maximize 100% muscle growth from what their potential was, which was, of course, just a half. So when you compare both these two individuals, they've actually both made the same amount of muscle, okay? So why it's so important you get both bits right. If you don't go hard enough in the gym, you can never make the massive amount of muscle. But if you do go hard in the gym and you don't eat the protein, then you can't, of course, actually turn that potential into actual muscle. So what you need to have is both. Work out hard and then also back it up with the protein to make that muscle That's the important stuff there. And very finally, just for the individuals here who aren't trying to lose weight and they want to gain weight, you see so many of these kids nowadays who all go, oh, I know, I'm on the bulk. I want to bulk right now. I want to get bigger. Just remember, okay, again, two things. Firstly, a lot of these bodybuilders you see online who talk about bulking and stuff, well, they're all on a massive amount of steroids. And all, it's very different you being a professional bodybuilder, taking all kinds of gear, going for the Mr. Olympia, and they're all about gaining massive amounts of, of fat and muscle just to take drugs to then lose it all quickly. That's not the average person. Bulking, what happens is, our natural human frame can only grow muscle at a certain rate, okay? You can't just suddenly go, if I eat so much more protein, I'll make so much more muscle. It's not gonna happen. You still have your limits. So at that point, all that will happen is if you suddenly say, right, I'm gonna have 2,000 more calories per day to bulk up, you're not getting massive more amounts of muscle. You're just gonna add on fat. So if that's what you want and that's the physique and whatever that you want, then that's fine. Then you go for that. But if you truly believe that by doing that, you're going to stay shredded or whatever you want and get massive and lean and everything, it's not going to happen, okay? It's not how it works, sadly. I wish it did. I wish you could sit here and eat a ton of food and work out and be huge and muscular. That's not going to happen. Don't fall for it. Don't stuff your face. If you want to get progressively a slightly bit bigger, yes, go on a calorie surplus, but perhaps 250 calories more per day, maybe 500 if you're pushing it. Don't go crazy. Don't go, I'll have a new massive Domino's pizza for the gains. That's not going to work. Anyway, that's all from me today on Elevate with Nate. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, like, leave a comment. What are your views? Did you learn something new from today? Anything which you want to add to this in the comment section? Please let me know. It's Nate. It's been great. Onwards and upwards.